Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for joining the Radiant Woman podcast. My name is Sekinat Alao, and I am the host of this amazing podcast, if I do say so myself, which is geared at encouraging you to live an authentic and joyous life. Before we proceed, how was your holiday? I hope it was great for you. I personally had a swell time with my family outside the hustle and bustle of Lagos. And the quiet was quite refreshing for me. I totally enjoyed myself. But sadly, it is back to business as usual. So, today, what are we talking about? Today, I would like to talk about living by design, right? And I think that this topic is very apt because I mean, it's a new quarter for most of us, particularly those of us that are still very aligned with the Gregorian calendar. And although since 2020, I think, I have been trying to follow the Hijri calendar as much as possible, which is my personal choice, by the way. One thing that I try to do is not miss an opportunity to feel that sense of renewal and hope that comes with a new season, right? And so basically, I try to live, change things, tweak things per quarter. There's just something so amazing and powerful about operating in bursts of 90 days. And I know it has been working for me since I've started doing that. And I think it's something that, a lot of us should try out. So when we talk about living by design, I would like us to talk about design in itself. What does it mean, to design? And that basically means to conceive in the mind first an end goal, or maybe something we are trying to create, how we want something to be, then having a plan to get to that goal. And when we now apply that definition to our lives, that is having a life design, a noun in quotes, it means having a deep think about the kind of life that we want to live, who we want to become, setting goals that are specific to our desires, and finally writing or putting down a plan to achieve those goals that constitute the big picture that we have, right? And of course, after designing comes execution. Some of us might think of it as, separate parts, but I would not want to look at it or treat it as, separate entities, because, I strongly believe that without execution, one cannot live by design. That is the action word, like the verb, live by design. Let's touch briefly on execution. This is where many of us fall short, right? But I can tell you for free and from my experience that many people also have issues with designing itself or planning, right? And that's the part about conceiving in the mind. So I'll give you an example. About 5, 6 years ago, right, I had issues actually conceiving in my mind. And of course, that automatically affected the fact that I couldn't plan, because although I knew what I didn't want, I didn't know what I wanted. So it was very difficult for me to actually conceive a life or think about goals that I wanted, right? And of course, I couldn't plan, and it was just a mess. So fast forward like 2 years after that, I had started getting clarity on the things that I actually wanted, and I had started conceiving a lot of ideas, right? You even got to the point, if you listen to my podcast with Sister Aisha Mai on limiting beliefs, there was a time I spoke about how I had so many ideas, and it got to a point that because I wasn't executing on them, I started getting embarrassed. I was embarrassed to even share more ideas. So what I'm just trying to say is it's not only in execution that we might encounter problems when we are trying to design or live by design. the issues can also come up in designing itself. That's that process of conceiving in the mind and also in planning. And this is not to make anybody feel bad or anything. Like I said, I just gave an example of myself, and alhamdulillah, I'm in the execution. I've started executing. I've learned, and from experience, I'm just trying to execute as much as I can, right? But this is not to make anyone feel bad. It's just to kind of tell you to give yourself some grace, accept and empathize with yourself that, okay, it is what it is. This is my situation. And now think about, how can I do better? How can I move forward from whatever stage that I am in? Right. So in summary, if we were to break down living by design, what it means is that it's living intentionally, living on purpose, because number one, you have thought about who you want to be. Ideally, you have thought about that in your head, you have conceived it in your mind, and you have thought about, okay, what is the identity that I want to embody? What is the big picture for me, for my life? Then, secondly, you have set up a specific goal that takes you closer to that big picture, and you have written it down somewhere, that you can always reference and look at, when things get awry or things get a bit shaken up. And lastly, you have executed on that plan. So that's what it means to live by design, right? So the first time that I attempted the concept of like living by design, right, was honestly when I had my son in 2017. Hmm. As a young mom, right, of course, I was elated. I was happy that, I've been bestowed these amazing gifts by Allah. Um, but as the days went by, I started getting overwhelmed. I started getting anxious. I was tired. I was confused. Things were just spiraling out of control. And I knew that I needed to do something fast, right? I was experiencing something new. I was learning. It was also new to me. I was experiencing a lot of emotions, going through my body changes, all that. So it was a lot. And even though I had help and support to a large extent, um, it was still just such a mess. And I felt like my life was, you know, out of control. I had no control over my life. And as someone who prided myself in wanting spontaneity, and flexibility, it was a huge blow for me to actually realize that what I actually needed was structure and a plan to keep things from imploding on my head, basically. So at that point, I just thought, you know, I thought about the big picture for my son. What kind of upbringing did I want him to have? And I made plans to achieve those results. So that way, I was able to utilize the resource that I had at my disposal even better. And that was when I realized that structure is good for me and for everyone. Like, the thing is, if you don't have a plan, you would lose the plot. And oftentimes, we deceive ourselves and say that we don't want to live rigidly, but we're just mixing things up, because having a plan and structure isn't equal to rigidity or maybe a boring life. We tend to wallow in chaos and call it flexibility, which it is not, by the way. So we fail to realize that, if there is no structure or plan in the first place, there's actually nothing to be flexible about. Like, there has to be something present in the first place, to move or rearrange, and that's what flexibility is about. So for example, when we say maybe somebody's body is flexible, there are bones and cartilages and all those things that make up that is like the structure in the first place. And maybe perhaps maybe due to training or for some reason, they are able to bend or move in one direction more than usual. We then say that, those kind of people, or that person is flexible. And that just it just what I'm just trying to say is there has to be a structure in place first before you can even form flexibility. Because if there's nothing there, then what are you being flexible about? Anywho's, I loved my first attempt at living by design, but sadly it was short lived. And the thing is, it wasn't even short. It wasn't short lived because I got pregnant maybe less than a year after I birthed my son. Because I mean, I had a plan, and all I needed to do was tweak it as he grew older, and as I also progressed in my journey and all that. So it was easy because it was easier because I had something to fall on. But it actually failed because my attempt at living by design was focused on another human being, not myself. And not to seem selfish. In fact, I'm not selfish. It is what it is. It is the truth. Human beings, that saying of you cannot give what you don't have is very real. It's very, very real because my why was for wanting to live intentionally wasn't for myself. It failed woefully, and it took me another 2 years to get back on track. 2 years of feeling overwhelmed, feeling scattered, feeling out of like I had no control over my life. It was hard. Oh, it was hard, but yeah, I'm sure a number of you can relate. But Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Yeah. So, and this brings me to why do some goals that we set towards our desired life fail? A reason, like I said previously, was because I set a goal that was not for me. I set it for somebody else. My why wasn't for me, it was for someone else, which in that case was my son. But another reason why, some of our goals fail is because we set goals that seem cool or seem like, oh, it's a good goal to set because I mean every other person is doing it. So for example, people are, they want to they want to work in tech, or they want to make millions of naira, and you decide to set a goal that, okay, me too, I want to make millions of naira, which of course is not bad, but is it really what you want? So that's the question, right? So when you set a goal that is not in alignment with who you truly are or your values, right, it's going to fail, right? So basically, you take someone else's goal or a goal that society is, praising, and you take it for yourself as your ideal self. And of course, because it's not in alignment with who you truly are, it's going to fail. Then another reason is that we set goals. Maybe you set a goal that for the large parts or to a large extent is outside your zone of control, right? So you don't know how to achieve it, or you do not have like the capability or the skills to achieve it, right? Those kind of goals, they would ultimately fail because you do not know how to go about it, right? You do not even have like you do not have an idea of how to even go about it, right? Whether it's in terms of like, oh, who do I even meet to help me or something, you're just clueless. Once a goal is outside your zone of control to a large extent, it's most likely going to fail. Then a third reason that I would like to touch on is that sometimes we don't follow through on some of our goals because it just wasn't our time to achieve it. Yes, I said it just wasn't our time, and it might seem that I'm just being all spiritual or I'm just trying to find excuses. But again, it is what it is. From my experience and from what I hear from other people as well, from my interactions, it's possible that we don't get a goal because it's just not our time. It's just not our time. It is, it might be somehow to believe, but that's just the truth. Like, so for example, it's like how maybe we learned something in school years ago, and it seems like gibberish then, but 5 years, 10 years down the line, that and maybe we've been using it frequently, just trying to implement it or use the knowledge in one way or the other, it finally clicks and you now understand. So, for example, when I started my business in 2017, my husband, who is a finance professional, was trying to teach me about. Um, he was trying to teach me about business model canvas. And when he was teaching me then, it was like Greek. I was like, what's this guy saying? Like, I couldn't understand it. And he was just trying to tell me, the various moving parts of my business and how, all those basic things that. But now, after like now, I attended, so 2 years ago I attended an entrepreneurship program. Shout out to AWEC. And by the way, if you want to apply for, a business program that is well rounded, is robust, you be in a cohort of over 200 other women from different countries, you want to check out AWEC. AWEC was so beneficial to me. Like, it taught me so many things. And yes, back to the BMC um, example. So, because when I joined that program, I had been in business for a while, like about 1.5 years or 2 years. When they were teaching me BMC, it just clicked. It just made more sense. So perhaps, or not even perhaps, I actually needed to be in business for a while for me to now get it. Do you understand? But it still boils down to the fact that, I still had to use that. I come across that concept of BMC again. So it's not that I just never revisited it, right? I still tried until it finally clicked. So now that I've mentioned some of the reasons why achieving a goal towards the life that we desire can fail. Let's now look at how we can actually design our lives intentionally, that is, live by design, right? So the very first thing is that you want to, again, conceive in your mind what kind of life you want to live by thinking deeply about who you want to be, like in your ideal future. What type of person are you? What is your identity? How do you want to feel? How do you want to experience things, right? How do you want to experience people? How do you want people to experience you, right? What kind of person? How do you show up at work? How do you show up at your home, with your friends, your family? Basically, it's like the vision. Like, if you were to die today, or a few days from now, a few months or years from now, what would you like to be remembered as, right? What's that identity? Then you also want to think about, why do you want to show up as this person? So again, it has to be for you and not for any other person, right? It has to be for you. Then when you have thought about, the big picture, the identity that you want to embody, then you want to think about, what is it that you would have to do to get there, to get to that your ideal self. What do you need? And when I mean ideal, I don't mean perfect, because nobody can ever be perfect. We can only strive to be, better every single day. um but you want to, you need to have a picture of the type of life you want to be, the type of person you want to be, the type of life you want to live, right? You can't just leave things to happenstance. You can't wing things. That's not what we're about here in the radiant life, right? For you to live radiant joyously, you actually need to take charge of your life. You need to take charge of your time, right? So back to what I was saying, you need to think about what you need to do to get to that ideal self, or that big picture you have for yourself, right? What do you need to prioritize based on the season of life that you are in? So if you are a single lady, it's different from the activities going on in your life will be different from someone that is married and is expecting, or for someone that is even married. It's just different. If you're a student, it's different from when you're working. So you need to take cognizance of the season of life that you are in. Then you now want to think about, okay, how do you now get there? Like, it's like similar to the mission, right? What habits will define you? What actions will you be taking? Would you need to take on a daily, monthly basis, to take you towards that dream self, that person that you desire, right? And for me, when I think about my life, which I totally recommend for everybody. And I'm sure we all do this. If you are not doing it consciously already, you do it unconsciously, right? So we are a whole that is made up of different parts, right? And I try to divide my life, or think about the various components. It just gives me a good sense of, okay, which part am I doing well in? Where do I want to put more steam on? Where do I want to press the pedal more? Or where do I just want to maintain, right? So for me, the various parts of my life, and this is in order of priority, is my faith, my relationship with God, my spirituality. Then after that, I think about myself, because again, I cannot give what I do not have, right? I need to fill my cup first before I can fill someone else's cup. It's the same thing like when you're on a flight, when they're telling you about the safety measures. They'll tell you to put on your own face mask first before you can put on a face mask for someone else, right? So after myself comes my husband, because that's my life partner. That's, the love of my life. That's the person that I have children with. So he comes next, and after that, my children. Then I have my family, my friends, my finances, my career, and my community, right? How do I want to show up to my community? So for you, you might want to break it down more. So under myself, I still have stuff like my fun hobbies, relaxation, rest, and all those stuff. But just not to make it too granular, those are like I think I have 8 or 9 like main components I break it down to. So for some of you, you might want to make it a bit um should I say shorter or smaller, like put so many things. So for some people they might say relationships and just put, family, um, spouse together. But I just want to make it, I don't want to make it too granular, but I also don't want to make it just like very how do I call it, high level kind of approach. Yeah, I do hope you get what I mean. Anyways, but yeah, then after you have, thought about all these things, you have thought about your different aspects, and you have thought about, what are the actions or habits I need to take, towards achieving my dream self. So I've looked at myself as a whole, and I've said, okay, this is the type of person I want to be. And I've looked at the various part of my life, and I said, okay, um, these are the things that I need to do in these various aspects to give me that whole big picture. Then you want to think about your values, right? You want to reevaluate your values. So some of us, and including myself, right, we are carrying around values that have been passed down to us from our family, our parents, our society. And I don't mean that those values are bad, not really, but the question is, are they what you need? Are they serving you? Are those values serving you? Right? Are they what you need at this season in your life? Right? And I mean, there's some values that are non-negotiable and all that, but you just want to go through that process of actually thinking. And that's why this self-awareness and getting to know yourself journey is like a lifelong one, right? So you want to reevaluate those values that you have. What do you need to imbibe? What values do you need to bring on? What do you need to maintain? What values need to go out the window, that will help you stay aligned to, or help you on that journey, on that goal towards your ideal self or your desired life, right? So it's basically, in summary, all what I've said now in the past, say 5 minutes or 3 minutes, is basically like having a vision, a mission, and values like businesses do. So if your mission is your destination, your big picture, your ideal life, right? And your mission is like that ship with a compass that is taking you to that destination, right? And that's where you have like your goals and your plans in there. Your values are like your rudder and your anchor that keep you grounded, that help you stay on course till you get to, your destination. So those are the things that, they help, just keep you sane. They keep you grounded. You It's not easy to just move you or shift you from that goal that you set your eyes on. That is what values would do for you. Now, after you have defined all that you want, you want to action plan. And see, planning isn't fail proof. And I'm sure everybody can attest to this. Just because you've planned for something doesn't mean that it cannot fail, right? It just that it minimizes the chances of failure. And even if you fail, you already know, okay, maybe this is not, maybe I should try another way or something. It's different from not even having a plan from the get-go. There's the quote that says that if you aim at nothing, you will always hit it. Let me take that again. If you aim at nothing, you will always hit it. That is, you will always hit nothing. I think it was by Zig Ziglar. Um, and there's, of course, the popular quotes, the popular hadith for us Muslims, which says that you have to tie your camel and trust in Allah. Not or. It's not either or. It's not. It's either you tie your camel or you trust in Allah. It is and you have to do both, right? And that is where having a plan comes in place, and it is so essential in living by design, living a life by design, that you have a plan. Again, you have a goal, you have a big picture, this is where you want to go. You set goals towards it, you have a plan towards it, right? And you execute it, right? So having a plan involves evaluating where you are currently. What is your reality? What do you need to maintain? What do you need to change? What do you need to ditch? Think about the things that you want to do. Think about where you are. Think about some of the things or factors that can stop you from taking action on your goals. And think about how you can mitigate them. How can you mitigate them? How can you overcome them? And this is where things like having accountability might come in, right? Because sometimes this is where most of us fall short, is because we set a goal and we don't share with anybody. And I mean, we are human. Sometimes we might slack and everything, but at least if there's someone there that is in tune, or is that knows at least this is what you're up to, they're able to say, how far now, that stuff that you want to do, how is it going and all that. And because we might feel embarrassed when you've continuously said something and you don't do it. That's like the psychology around accountability, right? Because you don't want to embarrass yourself, or you don't want to feel like you're letting someone down, then you get to it. But again, I digress. But yeah, think about some of the things that might stop you from, some blocks that might stop you from taking action on your goals. And that is why that the previous episode on limiting beliefs comes in, because sometimes our biggest blocks is actually our mindsets, our minds, right? So when you think about it, then you can now think about, okay, what are the mitigating factors? What are the things I can do to kind of overcome these blocks, right? So now that you have thought about the things that you need to do, you have the habits of the actions that you need to imbibe, or what the things that you need to do, right? So what you now want to do is you want to calendar it up, right? Like, put everything on your calendar. As many things as you know that you need to do to achieve your goal, put it on your calendar, right? So for example, this year I told myself that I want to put in a lot of rest into my time, a lot of rest and reflection. And it's not just by mouth, it's because I have noticed that for me to recharge, if I rest well, if I sleep, if I rest, if I'm able to think, if I'm able to just relax, it's that's my own way of recharging, right? And I knew that I need more of that. I want more of that. I might not even necessarily need, I want more of, that relaxation and rest, and just having time to think through things. I have said, okay, what do I need to put in place? And I said, okay, that means that I need to every day, like out of 7 days of the week, one of those days I need to actually, it might not be a full day, but it might be a half day where I just take out time and just slow things down, right? When maybe most people are out of the house or something, I just carve out time. Then I'll say, and then I said, okay, after every quarter, I'll take, some time off to rest. Can be 1 or 2 days just to refill and charge. But chances are, if I don't put it in my calendar, I won't do it. So what I've done is I have put those things in my calendar. And it doesn't mean that um, plans cannot change or things cannot change. But because it's already there, chances are if somebody should come up with, oh, Seki, come for this event or something, and it falls on that day that I've already set up, chances are, I won't be able to override it, except maybe it's extremely, extremely important. But the thing is, I have chosen, I've taken control of my time first before someone else will come and hijack it. So that is what calendaring will do for you, scheduling things. And trust me, before I used to be like, I don't like calendars, I hate calendars and all that. But I just thought about it that my husband does things with so much ease. And it's not like, oh, he doesn't have his difficult moments where he doesn't want to, he just has no motivation and everything. But even for me, my husband would tell me, let me check my calendar. And in my head, I'll be like, this calendar that I always shouting and everything. But when I've seen the lights and I know that that is the way to go, right? That is just the way to go. And it's not that you're being bossy or anything. It's just the way it is. You should put yourself first, right? And I've taken that on, and I think that everybody should actually take it on, have a calendar, and actually stick to it, right? So when you've calendared, things, you have put in your schedule, you have thought about the goal, what you want for the various aspects of your life, for your husband, maybe it's that you want to have more, intimate dates or whatever, put it up there. Maybe every month you have a date night or something, put it there so that you can see it. So that chances are when you say it gives you that reminder, you start working towards it. And that way, by the time you execute on it, it strengthens your relationship. If it's that with your kids, you want them to maybe there's something you want them to learn how to swim, or you want them to learn manners or something, put things in place, sign them up for swimming class. Every Saturday you are going for class, put it on your calendar so that chances it gives more probability that it will get done. So time is our greatest asset, right? And I do not know how to emphasize on this. Like, time is so precious, time is so important. And sometimes when I think about the way I have spent my time in the past, or how I even still spend my time, sometimes I feel so bad, because it just feels like, oh my God, all those moments have been, taken away from me. I can't get it back. So, but I wouldn't dwell on that. The whole idea again is to try and improve every day. What can I change? What can I tweak? One of my biggest time eaters is social media, and I'm gradually trying to stay off it. So now I did the plan of, okay, on Instagram, I set that limit to stay 1 hour on Instagram and everything. It might be hard for a business owner, because that was my own reality as well, because I needed to be on the app, reply messages, advertise, and all that. But there's a difference between doing business and just surfing and faffing away on the internet. And I'm very guilty of it, and it's just something that I'm trying to do every day. So once it tells me you have spent 1 hour, then even if I don't shut down the app immediately, it starts ringing in my head that you are going above your limit and all that. So it's just trying to ensure that you utilize your time to the best of your ability. And living by design is all about taking control of your time, using your time. As Muslims, we should know this. Surah Al-Asr says that man is at loss except those who spend it in doing good deeds, except those that are spending their time wisely, right? So we want to ensure that we make use of our time in the best manner possible. Lastly, now that we have thought about where we want to be, we have looked at the various aspects of our lives, and what we want to, how who we want to be, what we need to do, and all that. And we have, broken it down into like action, tactics, and everything. We put it up on our calendar and all that. You want to schedule out time in that same calendar to review on a weekly basis or a quarterly basis your progress. Are you moving? And it's not even just about, are you moving? Are you moving in the right direction? Is your movement still in alignment with who you are at that point in time? Do you need to change direction? Do you need to change course? Has there been a major life change for you? So, for example, last year I got ill, and the plans that I had at the beginning of the year, I got ill in March, and I had already had some plans um, at the beginning of the year. But because I got ill, I couldn't, proceed. I couldn't execute on it. So for sure, my plans had to change, right? And that's okay. It's okay to change course and everything. And so now I'm trying to get back on that plan that I had at the beginning of last year. So help me God. So you just need to constantly review. And this step is so important. Like, you need to review. If not, you lose sight of what's important, and your goals fade away, and you don't keep them top of mind. And at the end of the day, what's um out of mind, I'll be out of sight is out of mind, right? So you just need to make sure that you keep your goals visible to you, and that's by constantly checking on a weekly basis if you can. But I would say do not exceed like a month before you check your goals. So one thing I forgot to mention was, I've tried so many ways to set goals and all that over the years. Some have worked, some have failed, and this process I've just said, has worked for me so far, and it's still working, and I'm still tweaking and all that. But one thing I wanted to say is that concept of a word for the year, choosing a word for the year works for me so well. And I think it works for a lot of people as well, because when I read from people and all that, I think it works for them. So for me, what I do is I have a word of the year, and it's based on the season of my life again. It's so important to take your season into consideration. If not, you will be working against, like, you won't be working in alignment, and that's just the recipe for failure. So last year for me, it was explore. Right. So I just wanted, because I was ill, and I just wanted to take things easy, see what was going on. I was going through a rough time in my business, trying to figure out some things. So I just said, I'm just going to explore. And that's what I did throughout last year. And it doesn't mean that because last year has ended, I'm going to stop exploring. No. It just means that now I've moved on to something else. So now my word for the year is execute. And that's what, and I have put it up. So I did like a pretty design, and I put it up as my wallpaper on my phone, so that anytime I see my phone, I see the word execute, and I know that and it's not just execute in terms of like business or whatever. It's execute across all the aspects of my life. Everything that I've said I wanted to do, your goal this year, your word is to execute this year, and that just keeps me in check, right? So that's a reminder for me, right? So you know, all the things I've said is just trying to help you live more authentically. And I've realized that when you have control to a large extent, because I mean, man plans, but Allah is the, overall, He knows, He sees all things, right? He knows what is best for us. But at the end of the day, we still need to plan, because those things give us a semblance of control. And in order to live a joyous life, a life that you are you are joyful, not just happy, you are joyful from the inside out, you need to have some form of control over your life. You need to It just gives you peace, it gives you ease, it makes you know that you are making progress gradually, steadily, right? And that's just the beauty of living by design, right? Is actually curating what you want for yourself, not letting life to happen to you, but for you to happen to life, right? So it's not just that life is going to give you gospels and everything, and you're just going in all direction. It's that you have a plan, and even if life comes, hits you left, right, center, you are still able to go back on course, basically. So I think I am done with this episode. I hope that it was, you've learned something. I hope that it has reminded you of something, and I hope that it inspires you towards, if you haven't, really thought about what you want your life to be. It doesn't have to be 10 years, 20 years. I mean, we might not even live up to that. It can just be from, okay, within the next 1 or 2 years, how do I want my life to be? And start working towards it, right? So little steps, baby steps. Nobody has it all figured out, but at least once you start thinking about, there has to be something you have to look forward to, and that's just human nature for you, right? So if you have not thought about it deeply, there's still time. I mean, this is January. There's still time for you to think about it. It's never too late, and just try to implement as much as possible. So I'd love to read from you There's actually a section where you could put your comments. There's a section where I think you can also send me voice messages, right? So I'd like to hear from you. What has resonated with you so far? What are you doing this year? What are you doing differently, or what are you continuing to do that has worked for you? It will be nice to hear your thoughts and also, share with the audience. So, yeah, do let me know. I'm looking forward to reading from you. And as usual, please share, like the podcast, rate the podcast, share with your family and friends. It does a lot, it means a lot to me, especially now that I'm actually taking intentional steps to track my progress. So week on week, even when I was away and I wasn't actively promoting it, I've just been trying to, because in the past, I'm not one to actually, take stock of my progress, but I realized that it makes me feel more gratitude in my soul. So now I have started, taking stock of my program, and it's been such a joy to just see how, even when I'm not saying, go listen to the podcast, the listenership has been growing steadily and gradually, and that's just amazing, because for me it was, even if it's just one person that listens, right? It's okay. It's okay. Right. And yeah. So thank you all so much. Do let me know your thoughts. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Till then, stay joyous.